Hi guys, so I'm going to cover a few different topics today, some things that have been brought up in previous videos, and one of them is how to group different items of the same color so that you can make changes to them simultaneously or move them simultaneously, and another is how I lay out my vinyl on the mat so that I can cut multiple colors at one time instead of cutting the green and then reloading the mat in purple. So we're going to cover those, and I'm using a design from the Silhouette store today. This is the unicorn crown from Little Luxuries Loft. It's design ID number 206840. So if you're looking for this, you can just type in this design ID right here into the search bar and it'll pull it up. Again, that's 206840. And so I have purchased it and downloaded it, and I have it here on my computer mat so that we can work with it. And it came in already ungrouped, so you can see that everything's ungrouped. And the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to work with colors very similar to what's on the screen. You can change the colors, it doesn't have to be the same. You can use it based on what you have in stock, but I'm going to resize it so that it's about the size I want to work with, and actually it's a pretty good size just like that, so I think I'm going to leave it. And I want to be able to move like these green. You'll notice that as I click on these green pieces, each one is separate, and I want them to stay together so I can keep them lined up where they are so that when I layer them, they're gonna stay. And so how I do that is I'm gonna hold down the shift key on my keyboard. So just hold down that shift key and click. And while you hold it down, you click each one. Just the ones that you want. If you accidentally click something you didn't mean to, just click it again and it'll unselect. So hold it down, hold it down. So now that I have all of those green pieces selected, I'm going to right click and I'm going to click group. So now those green pieces are all going to move together as one. And so let's do the light pink. So there's one, two, and there's a little light pink one back there, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to select it without selecting that darker pink. So I'm going to drag a little box and see. It's going to select the green with it. Let's see if that might be grouped together. Okay, so now you see how we have two bounding boxes. If you look, let me zoom in so you guys can see a little better what I'm doing. So they were. When I clicked on this, you can see it's two colors, but when I select it, I'm only getting one, and so I'm going to right click and ungroup, and that's going to separate those two. So you can see this back one here is going to be this lighter pink, and this bigger one is the darker pink. I'm going to hold down the shift key and unselect this larger flower so it keeps the inner part selected, and it's going to be the same color as the outer part of these ears. And I'm going to right click and group. Whoops, I'm going to undo that because it looks like those ears are grouped together. So I'm going to click off to the side. I want to right click on the ear and ungroup. Right click on the ear and ungroup. So I'm going to click on the inside of this flower, hold down the shift key and click the back of these ears. And you know, as I'm looking at this, when I go to layer, I'm not going to be able to layer these pieces in the back with this piece in the front. So those are going to need to be different layers. So we're going to take this outer part of the ear, here and here. We're going to right click and group so that those ears stay evenly spaced. And notice it hid that other piece of the ear. I'm going to right click and send backwards, so that it's going to send it back behind this piece of the ear. I'm going to right click on this piece and this piece while holding down that shift key, right click and group. All right, and then we have two different purples. We have our horn here and then the black, and I want to keep the blacks together. So again, I'm going to right click here and ungroup. I'm going to right click on this flower and ungroup. I want to click that black and that black, right click and group. Now you don't necessarily need to keep them grouped together because I do like to do my layers with the registration boxes. Have you seen in my other videos? It does help me to have everything so that I can do it effortlessly and easily. So what I want to do is I want to create my registration boxes. We've done this before. I'm going to click on this box, and I just want to draw some boxes. So I'm going to do my first one, and then I like to use my replicate. That's this one right here. And then I just want to, you can duplicate one at a time, you can make rows and columns, and I just click on this row a few times until I get them all the way across. And then this one's a little far out, so I'm going to delete that. And then I'm going to click on this last box in the pieces the furthest on the right. And I'm going to use my transform menu, which is this one right under your text style box. And you have these alignment guides. And I want to align these two on the right, so I'm going to click that. So what that does is it lines that box up with the right side of my decal. And then I'm going to, usually with something this size, I do maybe 3 boxes, but I think for this one I'm going to do 4. So let's delete that one. It doesn't really matter which ones you decide to delete, because what we're going to do is we're going to take all 4 of these, and here on this transform we have a spacing, and this will space your items evenly apart between the farthest left and the farthest right. So by clicking this horizontal, it's going to space them out horizontally. And the reason I'm doing that is when I cut this piece right here, it's going to be by itself, and I'm not going to need these 2 registration boxes. If I only had the outer 2, it wouldn't do me a whole lot of good. I want to have 2 there. So same with this horn. I'm only going to use the middle 2. So by having all 4 of those, you'll be able to see when we do the layering why I'm doing multiples. Okay, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, and I am using a 12" by 24" mat. Up here in the page setup, that's this top right hand corner. I have gone to page size, and I've set my size to 12" by 24, and I've turned on my cutting mat to 12" by 24. That's just because I know I'm going to need more space than a 12 by 12. You could do it on a 12 by 12. You might have to do it twice to get all the colors, but it can be done. So I'm going to move this up here, and I'm going to right click, copy, right click, paste. And so that's going to give me, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put one set right there so that if I make a mistake or something, I have an original to go back to. So again, I'm going to come back here, select everything, right click, copy, right click, paste. Okay. Let's see how many colors we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 or 8 layers. We'll have to see as we do this. So other than right click, copy, paste, you can use your keyboard. If you're on a Mac, you're going to use the command key, which is to the left or the right of your spacebar. And if you're on a PC, you're going to use the control key, also is to the left or the right of your spacebar, I believe. It's been a while since I've seen a PC keyboard. But if I use my keyboard, I can hit command or control C, and then command or control V, and it's going to do the same thing. But again, you can also right click, copy, and right click, paste. So we're just going to add a few of these here, use my keyboard. Duplicate, so we have 6. Let's see how we do. Okay, so for the first layer, let's do the horn. So I'm going to click, and I'm going to use the delete key on my keyboard to delete everything out that I do not want. So we're just going to delete all these pieces, and I don't need these outer 2 registration boxes either. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to move it right over here. I'm going to group those together so they don't get messed up. All right. So here's the next one. Let's do the outside of these, the back of these ears. So we'll delete the horn, the flowers, and the inside of the ears. Okay, I'm going to right click and group that one here. And I'm not too worried about where I'm putting them yet. We'll get to that in a minute. So let's do the inside of the ears. right click and group. And then let's do the leaves. And again, I'm just hitting the delete key on my keyboard. Select everything and group. And then let's do one of the purple flowers. Let's do this left one. I don't need these two boxes. I'm gonna group those together, and I just hit Command G to group those together. Let's do the other purple flower. Actually, we're still gonna need 2 more layers after this. So let's go ahead and select this and copy and paste. And you can actually paste it right again without needing to copy it. I can right click, paste, and it's gonna paste another one. Okay, so we're gonna do the purple flower on the right. This one's got a lot of layers. We don't need these 2 boxes. We're going to delete those. Move this and group it. And then we need to do the larger part of the pink flower. Delete the inside. We do not need these outer boxes. Right click, group. And then last but not least, the inside of this pink flower. Don't need the outer 2 boxes. Select it all, right click and group. Okay, so next what we need to do is we need to figure out what size we need to make our pieces so that we can put them on the mat. And you can turn on your grid on your mat. So there's a few ways to do that. You can hit the G button on your keyboard, and that's going to turn on your grid. Or if you go back to this page setup, again, that's this top right corner, click this middle one, and I can click show grid. Now you can change the divisions. So as it is right now, each of these squares is 1 inch long and 1 inch tall. They correspond with the grid on your mat. And so this makes it really easy, because if you take this section right here, I know that this is fitting in 3 grids wide and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 grids tall. So you also have your dimensions on the outside of your box, but I know that when I cut this piece, I want it to put on this exact same spot on the mat for it to cut, and I'm going to show you how to do this. If 1/2 inches are really important, you can up your divisions to 2. So your darker line is your inch, and the lighter line in here is your 1/2 inch. You could go up even more. To me, that gets too confusing. I like to keep it at just 1 inch, but it is an option for you, whichever works best for you. So let me grab some vinyl and get the overhead camera set up, and then we're going to place all of this out onto our mat. All right, be right back. Okay, so I've gathered some, I'm just using some scrap pieces of vinyl. I have my 12 inch by 24 inch mat, and of course we have the project up on the screen. And so what we are going to do is we're going to figure out how big these pieces are that we need to make, and we're going to then lay them out on the mat to correspond with what's on our screen. I'm going to set the mat to the side for just a minute. And we're going to start with our sizes. So we're going to kind of double team here. So for the first one, again, is the horn. And let's see if I got a scrap piece big enough. So I have this little Fisker's craft mat that I can use. And so the first one that we need is 2.714 inches. You can see this is down here. And you can also see it's almost 3 squares. So that piece isn't quite big enough. Okay, so I don't have a piece quite big enough for that. So I've got out I really want to do the horn in this holographic spectrum vinyl. I'm going to get out my roll. I'm going to cut some off. So we need about 3 inches. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it to start. And then we'll trim it down. Okay, so this one was too small. Alright, so again, we need a piece that's about 6 inches by 3 inches. So I can just line it up here, and you have a few options. I often work with a guillotine cutter, but you can also use scissors. You can use a rotary cutter. For the purposes here, we are going to use this mat and a ruler and an X-Acto knife. I have my X-Acto knife here. I'm just going to cut this down, and then we want it about 6 inches this way. Just think that a unicorn horn will look really good in a holographic spectrum. Okay, so there's our horn. So what I'm going to do is, as you can see on the mat here, it is in this top left corner. And so I'm going to take my cutting mat and I'm going to line it up in that same top corner. Here's my top. Here's the little hole for hanging. I'm just going to place it there. And I like to use my rubber brayer to kind of make them stick, and I'll put a link for this as well. But this helps things stick to your mat, especially when you're like me and working with an older mat that's not super sticky. So we have our first piece down. So it's going to cut that horn right there. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next piece. And once you've done this a few times, it will get easier and easier. So I actually want to make the back of the ears white. So that would be this one right here. And it's showing pink here. It's easier to see on the screen when it's in pink, but I want to do it in white. And so we're looking at about 4 inches by 6.5 inches. So of course my white piece is not big enough. So we're going to grab some white vinyl, and we need about 4 inches. And I'm just going to cut this down. And you can cut it out in little sections if you want. For me, it's just easier to do it this way. Quicker for you guys. And with my X-Acto knife. And we need it about 6.5 inches wide. Line this up, X-Acto knife, cuts right through. Okay, and then this one's going to go in the top right corner. So again, take our mat, place the vinyl down, and this is a matte white Decal 651, but it will layer fine with everything else. And then we have our inside of our ears are pink. So I'm going to draw my box around those. And this one we're looking for about 4 by 6.5. So cut our 6.5 first. Go this way. And like I said, there are multiple ways that this can be done. This is one way. If you do it this way and then you decide to try it something else and it works out easier, by all means, what works for one person doesn't always work for another. So like 3.75 this way. And again, you can see there's these dimensions around the box that I'm using. And you can also count squares. So let's cut this one down. Okay, and so if you look on here, I'm going to kind of let's move these down. So I'm going to move this one down a little bit. So if you look and you can count squares. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's where our holographic is. And then we skip 1, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if we come to our mat, and you have your 6, 7, then we start at 8. So 8, 9, 10, 11, there we go. And we want to actually line this up at the top, so that your little areas are matching up. All right. And I seem to have lost my black somewhere, so that's why we have this extra one here. So I'm going to right click, copy, right click, paste. And I'm not sure how I missed the black, but again, that's why we keep a backup. And select all of those. Drag them down here, and our final piece is a little more than 2 by about 6.5. Let's see if that's long enough. Let's do that again. Let's look. Cut it at 2.5. I like to give myself a little wiggle room. And 6.5. And this final piece is going to line up right here. And so it's very important that your pieces line up. How graphic does not want to stick. That your pieces line up on your mat the same as they do on the screen. So it's hard to do this, your angle. But you can see I have the horn and then the ears, the purple, and you can go and double check and count your squares. So this purple is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to fill 6, 7, and 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's going to fill and 3 across, so that's in the right spot. So just go through and confirm that everything is where you need it. And then you're going to send it to the machine to cut, and it's going to cut all of these at one time so that you do not have to keep reloading your mat and putting it back through the machine. And so we're going to come back and layer our unicorn crown. Okay, so we have everything cut, and one thing that I did notice was after I cut the green, I realized I forgot to weld it. And so you can see the lines where these leaves overlap at his cut, and that was not my intended purpose. If we were doing like a darker green and a lighter green, you would cut those leaves separately out of different pieces of vinyl, so you wouldn't want to do that. But because we just did the one shaded green, I did go back and weld. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see those cut lines are not there anymore. So, and I printed off a copy of the file, so as we layer, it is very important that these layers go in a certain order. So that's going to help. And a lot of the times I'll just pull it up on my screen, but so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. I printed it out. So let's get these weeded. So we have all of our parts weeded, and we are ready to assemble. And so I'm going to grab my AT65 transfer tape. This is my favorite clear transfer tape. It works great for layering. You can see right through it. And so we want to make sure our piece is big enough. And this is going to be the tallest piece. Just going to cut it with my favorite scissors. And again, a lot of the times I do this with my guillotine cutter. But scissors work, X-Acto knife works, box cutter works, whatever you want to use. And so we're going to start with the black. And let's trim this down a little bit as well. Don't need it too wide. Just kind of eyeball it, but I don't want too much extra getting in my way. Save that other piece for something later. Okay, so we want to start with the black because that seems to be the very topmost layer. And so just move everything out of the way. And I'm going to line up the bottom of this. And grab my burnishing tool. And these can be bought from pretty much any supplier. It's just a squeegee. They're usually anywhere from 50 cents to $2 or $3. I'm going to pull this up. And then it looks to me like our next layer is going to be this flower right here. I'm going to lay this back down just above my registration boxes. And we want that flower. And so this flower is going to line up. You can see we have 2 registration boxes. It's going to line up with these 2 right here. So I just want to line those up. Place it down. And we got the boxes, but then we lost our flower. So this happens. This happens from time to time, so we're going to have to eyeball this one. Just going to place it right there. Okay. So it might not be exact, but for that layer we're okay. I'm going to take this same piece, lay it back down, and then we want to do this light pink layer right here, because that does need to go in front of the darker pink. And so that one's going to line up with these 2 registration boxes. So I'm just going to lift this up. Move that down. Peel this off. And then I'm going to place this same sheet back down. So now we want to do this darker pink flower. And again, we want to line it up with these 2 registration boxes. This can be tricky to do with a really big decal, but it is possible. Try not to get your registration boxes stuck to your table. Just stick a barrier under there. Let's move that down. Over, and so now we want to do this lighter pink flower. I'm going to lay this down, and it's a purple, we're doing this one. And this one we want to protect these 2 registration boxes. So as you can see, it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. And one last piece, and that is our holographic crown. Right here. So we do need to protect our design. And it's going to be on these middle two registration boxes. And if you've ever worked with holographic, you know it can be a little tricky. Let's lay this down. I do not want to stick my design to my desk. I don't care about that. This backing that I had here. And I want to burnish this really well onto the app tape. Flip it over and peel it off. We can take these off. Don't need those anymore. I really like to leave my layered decals on the back of the final color, but I just wasn't willing to give up that much of the holographic vinyl to make a piece that big. Just want to burnish this down really well, and then we're going to trim. And there you have it, our unicorn crown decal. You can see it's a little different from the original, but I really like it. I think that the colors work well together, and I really love that holographic crown. If you can see that. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks.